Greetings, Quester, and welcome to the Quest Report with Matt and Richard.
Okay, so the next game that we're going to talk about is one that we played recently, which is Inish. And Matt's going to give a brief overview of that.
Yeah, okay, it was an area control game. Very good. Unusual artwork, I thought, on the box and on the cards and everything. Basically, the game is played over two different phases. You have the assembly phase, which is where primarily people are checking to see if they've won, if they've completed the victory conditions. They are taking some cards for areas they control. And then you're on to dealing the action cards. Now, the action cards are really what the game revolves around, which are these things. So, the way this happens, we played this as a two-player game, and you have card drafting at the start of every round. So, you shuffle, you deal 3 cards, you look at the 3 cards in front of you, you pick one to keep, you put that down, and you pass 2 cards to the other player. They then are passing their 2 cards to you, and then you're looking at the cards in front of you, then deciding one to keep and passing one back, and you do that twice. So by the time you finish the drafting phase, you'll have an action card hand of 6 cards, plus any advantage cards that you might have, or any epic cards from the round before, and then you're trying to play those cards to gain control of various territories. Now the tiles are shaped like this. They're a very unusual shape. However, because of how unusual the shape is, it actually really works to the game's advantage. The reason being, with many tile-based games and tile-based maps, the tiles are constantly shifting, but because of the way these are cut, they just lock nicely into position, and it's just interesting because they're an unusual shape. Now, the cards that you'll play allow you to do different things, so you might be able to move your miniatures around the board. And just as a side note, you have 12 different miniatures to control. Each one are referred to as a clan, but there are actually 4 different molds for each miniature, so you end up with 4 different molds. It doesn't make any difference, it's just nice to have different miniatures. And you'll end up trying to get control of territories by having the most men there. One of the victory conditions is to have the most men in 12 territories, so in 6 territories rather. But also another victory condition is to control a certain number of enemy clans within those territories. And again, I think it's 6 enemy clans that you want to control, which means that you're in those territories and you have the most. And those 6 clans can be of any other players, can't they? You could have, 2 territories where there's 3 clans and they can be different players. But the idea is to have that control.
Because you don't actually have to fight, do you? You can choose to fight or not, so you could be both in the same territory.
Yeah, so whenever you move into a territory, when you move a miniature from one territory to another territory, there's always the option to fight. Now, if you choose not to fight, everybody has to agree not to fight. And some of the battle mechanic in here is fairly straightforward, but actually quite interesting. When you attack somebody, they have to either remove one of their clans, one of their figures from the board, or they have to discard a card from their hand. So it can actually be quite damaging to both parties.
It's expensive.
Because it's very much a to and fro, isn't it? It's I'm getting rid of one of yours, now you're going to get rid of one of mine, and see who controls in the end.
And you say, I think I'll stop there.
Yeah, you can stop combat. You don't have to run to its conclusion, though. If you were going to start a combat, I don't see why you wouldn't see it all the way through to the end. Also, some of the cards will allow you to take an enemy's figure off and put one of yours in place, effectively getting them to switch allegiance, which is something that Richard did to me almost through the entirety of the game when
we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we will be talking about that. But it's a very fun game. There are things in it. I mean, a lot of people compared it to games like Kemet and Blood Rage, from what I've heard, and Cry Havoc. To me, it's very much in its own category because of the way that the combat works, the way that the action cards work. I love the drafting mechanic that's in there. There is a lot to this game, but it can finish very quickly. And I think the more players you've got, probably the quicker you'll end up finishing it. I mean, our game lasted, I think, 3/4 of an hour.
Yeah, it wasn't that long.
But
yeah.
you can definitely finish this game in 30 minutes quite easily, and you'd still have a lot of fun in that time.
Yeah.
Richard, what were your thoughts on the game?
Well, like you said, I thought it was very unique. I don't really think I can compare it to another game directly, like I can with some other games. But the thing I really liked about it was these action cards. As you were saying, we get them each turn by drafting.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you get a good chance to have a look at what cards your opponent has, because obviously you're looking at them and then handing them over each time. And
although in a 3-player game or a 4-player game, it would be harder to keep track of.
Yeah,
that. In a 2-player game, you kind of think, well, I haven't got this, so you must have this.
Yeah. So I think playing it 2-player to start off with was a really good way to learn the game, because we saw each card quite a lot of times, didn't we? So yeah, I had a few of my favourite cards, as like Matt was talking about. This New Alliance card, that is the one that I kept using, and it's basically a way of recruiting. So every time you want to bring a new clan out onto the board, you have to use a card that lets you do that. And rather than use one that just lets you summon them directly, trying to see which particular one that is. New clans. There's a new clans card there, so you could just put 2 on the board for doing that. This New Alliance card lets you either place 1 clan, so they're not quite as powerful there, or you have the option to choose an opponent with 2 or more clans in his territory and replace one of his clans with one of yours.
I call that the sneaky git card.
Okay, so basically I was changing one of Matt's clans into one of mine, so that ended up having quite a big effect in a lot of the territories. That if there was both of us there, say Matt had 2 clans there and I had 1, suddenly I was the one with the 2 clans and Matt only had 1. So really the effect is very similar to if I just put 2 down, and it lets me conserve mine as well, because you only get, is this a whole
12,
bag of it?
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
only
whole bag.
12 clans. And what did happen to us is that we ended up, well, you know what happened by the time you got that card.
Yeah. This really annoyed me, because I just couldn't get this during the drafting, and then by the time I finally did get it, I'd already got all my guys on the board, which meant I couldn't actually use the thing.
Yes.
I couldn't use it to either place a clan or to turn one of his guys into one of my guys.
Yeah, because once they're all down, they're down.
Once they're down,
So,
they're down. It's
yeah.
not. You can't keep adding. You're limited by the 12 figures.
But yeah, that made us start to fight, though, didn't it?
It did.
And not because you were so mad about it.
And not
or
literally,
maybe,
in the
I don't
game.
know. Yeah, in the game, because like we had these cards that ended up being useless because we couldn't actually summon any more clans to the board because we didn't have any in reserve. But so really, we had to start having battles, which we might not have done otherwise, because there was a lot of territory to expand into. There was little these citadels, aren't they? Citadels to build, and sanctuaries.
Which are, just made it clear as well, sanctuaries are one of the victory conditions for the game. If you control territories with 6 or more sanctuaries in it, then you fulfilled one of the 3 victory conditions. Citadels actually don't contribute towards the victory conditions at all, but it does mean that if someone attacks you and you've got one of these in that territory, you can pop one of your figures, if you choose to, into the citadel. And they won't come out until the battle's actually complete, which means that by the end of the battle, you'll still have at least one guy left in that territory.
Yeah, so you can protect one of your clans in there. The other card I was going to talk about was the Druid one, and there's light shining on it. This was one that I was using in conjunction with the New Alliance one, because this card actually lets you take a card back out of the discard pile. So I was using the New Alliance one again. So yeah, if the card didn't sound too annoying when we described it before, just imagine that I was using it twice every round.
It was incredibly annoying. But you know
then,
what?
yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, it was fine. It
I wasn't
was a good
there
game.
getting upset thinking, oh, this card is making my life really difficult. I was thinking, damn it, I want that card, you know?
Yeah, because although we were kind of obsessing over just a few cards, it was the first time we'd ever played, and I think another time we might realise that some other cards are more powerful if you use different tactics.
And also, we've not even spoken about the advantages advantage cards. If you've got control of a particular territory, be it Lost Vale, Stone Circle, one of the other areas, you get to have at the start of the round an advantage card, which means you've got an extra card to play in your hand, which can let you do different things, and some of those are very powerful and affect combat quite a bit. And also there are things that you can do to get an epic card. Now the epic cards are even more powerful than either of these and let you do tremendous things. We didn't go through too many of those, did we, when we played?
No.
And I didn't want to look through them all because I like the surprise of it, but the ones that we did see were all really, really good, and you could hold on to those until you played it, whereas with the advantage cards, you only had them for that round that you control the territory. If you didn't play it, then you could potentially lose it if someone took that territory off you.
Yeah, if somebody did take the territory, you could keep it for the rest of that round, couldn't you?
That's right, yeah, and you can still use it during that round.
Yeah.
Which maybe gives you an advantage in trying to get that territory back. But yeah, so there's 3 victory conditions, just a reminder of that. And again, that is by having control of 6 territories, being in 6 territories, isn't it?
Yeah.
And having being present. Now this is an interesting thing. You don't have to control territories with 6 of these sanctuaries. You just have to be in territories with 6 or more sanctuaries. So even if you're not the one that holds that land, if you're present in all of those, then you can still control it. It's a very interesting little game mechanic. It's one I would highly recommend. This is definitely staying in my collection. One of the things that I liked as well was how easy it was to learn and to teach.
Yes, actually, because, like we were saying with the drafting, by the time we'd done about 2 rounds, we'd seen most of the cards, hadn't we?
Yeah.
And we weren't thinking about, how do you do this anymore. We were thinking about our tactics and things. So.
And the cards explain exactly what to do and how to use them. So you haven't got to go through the rulebook and think, what does this do? How do I use this? It's all there on the card in front of you. I think the look of the game is got a charm to it. Very beautiful game, very well made by Matagot, and definitely one for the collection.
Yeah, it's one we'll have to try and play with different numbers of players as well, isn't it, really? Rather than just the 2-player. So.
Hopefully we'll be playing it again in the next week or so.
Yeah.
So, that was our thoughts on the game. We hope you enjoy that. Let us know what you think of the game in the comments below. Thank you very much.
Farewell, Quester. To find out about other productions by the Meddlesome Meeples, then check out our channel or rendezvous with us at meddlesomemeeples.com. Until next time, Quester, farewell and keep thine axe sharp.